Good morning, everybody. It is Writers Chat Tuesday. Welcome back. This is where craft connects community. We have a wonderful show for you today on the difference between voice and tone. And to give that presentation is a special guest. But before we go there, I'm going to say if you would like to be here with us live, you may. Join us on Facebook. It is a group, Writers Chat members. Join, answer the questions. We'll let you in, I hope, if you answer the questions well. Yeah. But you can get all of the event notices and be here live any Tuesday that you want to. If you just get in there, that's how to do it. So you can be here with us, and then you don't have to watch the replays, but the replays will be available for you on our YouTube Writers Chat channel if you want to go back and rewatch, which a lot of the times people do. Great resource there. So if you are watching the replay, we thank you, and we would love to have you. We thank you for being a part of our community. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Norma to introduce our special guest.
It is such an honor to introduce Miss Johnnie Alexander as our special guest. Many of you know her, one of the founders and former co-host of Writers Chat. But before I get into her bio, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what she's going to talk about today. Writers are often told to find their voice. That's not easy when almost every book defines the word differently. And then there's tone. How is that different from voice? In this session, we'll explore the differences between narrative and authorial voice, why some writers have a strong recognizable voice, while others adapt to the needs of each story and the elements that shape both voice and tone. Most importantly, we'll, we'll examine how voice and tone work across genres through practical examples. Now, to know a little bit more about Johnnie, she's an author of over 40 works of fiction, writes award-winning stories of enduring love and quiet courage. Her historical and contemporary novels weave together unforgettable romance, compelling characters, and a touch of mystery. A sometime hermit, an occasional vagabond who most often kicks off her shoes in Florida, Johnnie cherishes cozy family times and enjoys long road trips. Readers are invited to discover glimpses of grace and timeless truth in her stories. Connect with Johnnie at johnniealexander.com. Johnnie, we are so glad to have you. And
Oh,
with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
it's good to be back, and I just appreciate y'all so much and often pray for you and miss you. So it really is good to be here. We've been talking about me doing a episode on voice for like 2 or 3 years, and it just never would happen. So when the team reached out and said, "Hey, it's time," I said, "Okay." So and I am going to apologize in advance. Before we started the recording, I said this cat is in my room and he is, like most cats, very obnoxious. As soon as the recording started, he started scratching to get out of my room. Katie came. If you heard the door squeak open and close, that was her. He refused to leave. So he is still in the room. So,
True to cat nature.
we may have to just pause and me kick him out at some point. We'll see what happens. But I'm so glad to be here and talk about this. But let's go ahead and get started. And it disappeared. We tried this earlier and it was on here. What did I do? There we go. Do you see it? Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. There we go.
Now,
Yep.
Yes.
yay. This is like the bane of my existence. I have always, always, always had trouble with screen share and start from play from the start. Okay, there we go. Continue to share. Yes. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. Okay, so we're going to talk about voice and tone. Um, this was the title I sent into Melissa early on. And then as I really got into it and looking at it, it's like, well, this makes it seem like they're adversaries and they're not. So, mentally, let's just think of it a voice and tone, but there is a difference between the two. So, we're going to talk about that. So, you may know this. Writers are often told to find their voice, and yet that's not easy because no one seems to define the word the same or to have a great definition for the word. And then there's tone. How is that different from voice? And so we're going to be talking about both those things. Okay, give me a second. Okay. So this is one easy way to kind of think about it is that there are two voices, not just one. And the first one, the basic one, and when people say, find your voice or that person has a very distinct voice, usually they're talking about your author voice or your authorial voice. So let's think about that as your DNA. That is who you are. It's your deepest truth, your artistic expression. And one of my favorite definitions, that this comes from Chip McGregor, I heard it ages and ages ago, your personality on the page. That just sounds very simple, very easy to remember. But then there's also your narrative voice. So if your authorial voice is your DNA, then your narrative voice is changing clothes. So that is the story, and that is a craft decision, something you are actually thinking about and doing to make that story the best it can be and the story you want it to be. Okay. So let's talk about the DNA for a second. Your voice reflects your vocabulary, your rhythm, the way you write words, your diction, recurring themes, your emotional sensibilities, and your worldview. So, no matter what you write, these are the kinds of things that will still underlie your story or your novel or your nonfiction. Nonfiction folks, I have not forgotten you. I'm a fiction writer, so I focus on that, but I've got nonfiction things in here as well because your voice matters too. So these are, and this is not an exhaustive list, but these are just different things that as you're thinking about developing your voice that you might want to pay attention to, recognizing within yourself. Surprise! Not every writer has a dominant, always recognizable authorial voice, but you do have a voice. And I think this is one of the things that makes that word just sound so out there that we can't even reach it because we hear about Mark Twain, Jane Austen, who else? Charles Dickens, Ernest Hemingway, that they have this voice that no matter what they write, you would know it was them. Well, I'm not sure that's true, to be honest. Um, their writing is recognizable, but they're also very familiar and they're all dead. They're all gone. So their works have been studied a lot. So, there are people today who have a better natural voice than someone else, but it's not like everybody recognizes a David Baldacci book when they see it, because guess what? There are a thousand of thriller writers, famous thriller writers. And, in a way, I'm not going to say they're interchangeable, but it would be hard, I would think, to say, yes, this is definitely David Baldacci and not Brad Thor or whatever. So, don't worry about whether everybody's going to know this is my writing, but know that you have a voice, and that's what matters, and that's what publishers are concerned about, that you have a voice, but that you also know how to tell a good story. That's what they really want, is a good story. Okay, so I'm going to use three examples from my own writing to talk today, and then other examples from other things too. And I'm not doing this because I'm like the best writer in the world or anything like that, but because I know my voice and I know the decisions I made in in the story in the three stories that I'm going to share with you, and they will show they will show these differences. Okay, so this is When Memory Whispers, which I actually wrote like in, I don't know, 2007 or 8 or something like that, and then just kept revising it over the years, and finally indie published it myself, because I couldn't find a publisher that would want it. It did not fit the typical romance expectations, let's say. Anyway, and this is just an excerpt from like chapter 13, I think. But anyway, what we have is this older lady, and Jenna's her granddaughter, but Jenna doesn't know this is her grandmother. And the story itself is about Annalie as a young woman, and her real name is Marie. So this was easy writing for me because this story does reflect my natural voice. Okay. So that's why I wanted to share it with you. So just really quick, I'm going to read this through. With Jenna's assistance, Anna Lee reluctantly settled into the hospital bed. Jenna deftly arranged the bedclothes, unwittingly imprisoning Anna Lee in a linen shroud. Not yet, God. I still have a promise to keep. Jenna gave an apologetic smile. I'm sorry, but I searched your bag for an emergency contact. Unfortunately, that little card in your wallet is still blank. Is there someone I can call? Anna Lee averted her gaze to stare out the window. The sunbeam reappeared, hypnotizing her with the woo, with the waltz of the dust motes caught in its light, and taking her back to that long ago night in Hatfield, a night of fear and of mystery. The second time I met my husband, I twirled in his arms. Tears slipped down Annalie's wrinkled cheeks, their dampness trickling past her ears, silent molecules of an overwhelming grief. If she didn't tell Jenna the story, Marie would be lost to oblivion. Not her soul, that belonged to God, but her life, her identity. I'm going to tell her, Annalie whispered to herself. She will know your name. So that to me was, like I said, it wasn't difficult writing because it sort of comes naturally because it does reflect my worldview, my sensibilities, the rhythms I have, vocabulary, all those kinds of things. And interestingly enough, when you talk about like themes and things like that, that whole part about the dust motes and the sunbeams, that is such a memory from my childhood of like sitting on the rug or the wooden floor or whatever, and the sun coming through the windows, and those dust motes like flying around, that they show up in several stories. And even if the dust motes don't show up in stories, windows are my characters sit in diners by the window or restaurants by the window almost every single time they enter a restaurant. It's always, always, always. And I have to sometimes make myself not let them sit by the window because that's just one of those crazy little things. So anyway, again, this is kind of an easy, like I said, this is kind of my voice, right? Let's see what comes after this. Now, James Scott Bell, The Secret Power of Great Writing, which is an excellent book, and I do quote him several times in here. He says, in his humble opinion, the best writers have the ability to vary the voice on the page according to the needs of the story. So this is where we're moving from authorial voice and knowing what your voice is and what the DNA of your voice is, excuse me, to moving on to the needs of the story, to that narrative voice. Okay. So the narrative voice, like I said before, is the clothing. And in fiction, that narrative tone is going to reveal an attitude. And that attitude could be, these are just some examples, lighthearted, comic, intense, cynical, irreverent, whatever. But that's what it's going to do. It's going to do that with the characters, with the setting, with the word choices, all of that. So this is me changing clothes, okay? The Caretaker's Christmas. This is the opening scene. I don't never mean to eavesdrop. I do my work, keep it to myself, and it's like I blend into the very air, like I might as well be invisible. Now, to be sure, I take no offense at being ignored. For truth, that's how it should be in a quiet place like this. Folks don't go there to share a cup of coffee and a sit down with the likes of me, not like here at the diner where a friendly hello is welcome. They go out to that place because something pulls at them. Even on cold winter days like this one, they tramp through the slush and mud and melting snow. And without paying no mind to me, they talk. Okay, so now it's like a little bit of audience participation time. What differences do you see in the tone of the first excerpt I read and this one? And not just the tone, but even more than that. There are other differences.
Cadence and word choice are very different between the two.
Exactly. How would you describe, let's follow up on that. How would you describe the word choice and cadence if when memory whispers?
More flowing,
Mm-hmm.
um, picturesque, a little bit more picturesque, whereas the Caretaker's Christmas is a little bit more choppy, a more distinctive, maybe not perfectly spoken voice.
I would say that, the caretaker's Christmas feels a little, this segment feels a little less formal.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe this person could be not as educated,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the other one feels more formal.
That's good. Anybody else? And I can't see the chat. So if anybody puts anything in the chat, you guys will have to tell me. I don't have that box
Yep.
taken
One
space
person
on my
says
screen.
first person, grammar
Mm-hmm.
misuses that are probably regional, feels as though you're being talked to casually.
Mm-hmm. Okay, those are all good. But see, it's the same me, right? It's the same DNA. And not only that, interestingly enough, this one was also very easy for me to write because this character talks like the people I grew up with talk. My family's from Ohio, coming up from Southern Ohio, which is really close. I mean, we joke like we're just three generations away from being hillbillies, and so these are the voices I could hear, and it's always easy for me to slip into this kind of dialogue, I guess, or this kind of diction, maybe is a better word. And even though I don't have like a pronounced Southern accent, I do get teased about some of the words I say because people say I draw out my vowels and I don't say some words correctly. My sons-in-law both love to tease me about different words, so I try to avoid even saying them in front of them. So, but when we play different games where like we're taking on different characters, even if I start out like I try to start out with a British character, by the end of my monologue, I have gone Southern. So it's like I always go that way. So it is kind of deep in again in my DNA. But you can see how the like someone looking at both of these might think they were written by different people, but they weren't. But yet they're still, it's my authorial voice in both of them, but they had different clothing on. So we're going to go to a third one, and it also takes place at Christmas. And let's see how different it is. This is Christmas Comes to Springlight. This is also the beginning of a short story. At 10 minutes past 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, Lamora Violet McElhaney Smythe sighed a solemn sigh and stared a sullen stare out the picturesque picture window of Win at a Loss pawn shop. Snowflakes fluttered from a sapphire sky dotted with winter white clouds onto the outstretched branches of the spreading chestnut tree and atop the snow blanketed lawn of Courthouse Square. If you or I, dear reader, were standing in Lamora's pink stilettos, for she had exchanged fur-lined boots for heels more befitting a professional proprietress before opening for business that morning, our breaths may have been taken away by the breathtaking beauty of the Winter Wonderland outside the pawn shop's picturesque window. Again, friends, how is this different?
This one almost feels a little poetic and play off of words and sounds. And I forget what that's called, where you intentionally,
Breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, definitely
uh,
did that.
yeah.
Yeah. Very
There's a
literary.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because
that's the word I was looking for, literary.
very
Yes.
long sentences with a lot of description that many people these days would say, oh, that's too much description because so many people are so
Mhm.
um, short, truncated speech these days, and everything's got to be choppy. And this is reminiscent of old time literature,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially with when you break the fourth wall and bringing the reader in, because that was very common in,
It was.
in older literature.
They did that a lot.
Hmm.
Um, this was fun, and I love I think it's called dissonance and assonance. Is that the right word? Where I don't know, where there's so many of the words begin with the same syllable or same letter and same sound,
Hmm.
and then they're also like in the middle too of those and the rep like you said, the repetition. This was a fun thing to write. I get to when I write these spring light stories, I just sit there and giggle because they're they just tickle me so much because of the wordplay. So anyway, so those are like an example of an authorial voice that has changed clothes. Okay, so there's the DNA, but there's also switching the tone
And there's still
because of the
windows.
story. Pardon?
There's still a window.
Yeah.
Yep.
Netflix, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I love windows. I do. All right. So, anyway, and this is what's fun about short stories too. It's just as a little side trail that, when you write short stories, you can get away with stuff like this, that as a novel, it would be really hard to find. No publisher is going to publish this as a full-length novel. I mean, it's not even that long, but you know what I mean. If it were, no. Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, tone in nonfiction. It's going to also reveal attitude, and it can, scholarly, informative, lighter, heavy, snarky. You're talking about essays, memoirs, biographies, how-to books, devotionals. It just runs that whole gamut. And so it's the tone in nonfiction. Now, these aren't me because I don't write nonfiction, but I've got two that are kind of at opposite ends of this light and heavy spectrum, or just kind of casual and scholarly, because I wanted to show two very distinct tones. So this first one, I've been like having a great time on X, which I usually don't spend much time on at all, but all these videos from the visitors for the World Cup are just tickling me to death. So I've been watching a lot of those videos. And I came across this gentleman. I don't know how you pronounce his name. No, Nobunaga, maybe. I don't know. But this is a post that he had just recently. And interestingly enough, he has a lot of these, and they're just so fun to read. He, I don't know how much of this is true, but if you read enough of his posts, he presents himself as a samurai with an 800-year heritage, and actually like in this home, living in a castle with a moat, and all this kind of thing. So, but anyway, I'm going to ask Brandy to read to read this. Actually, I should have asked Norma to read it because of the you all.
Now I say
Y'all.
y'all all the time.
Okay, well, go ahead, Brandy. I'm gonna let you read
All right.
it.
I once sat at a table in the Southland when a woman spoke a word that felt like a sudden embrace, though I had done nothing to earn it. What can I get y'all? Y'all. I knew the word from television. I did not know it could hold people. My friends ordered. I sat there, freshly contained, working out what I had just been counted into. In Japan, inclusion is earned slowly. Years of shared seasons before a group says we and means you. This woman did it in one syllable, between refills, without checking my paperwork. You good, hun? She asked. You included me. In what? In y'all. She looked at my friends. My friends looked at the table. He's from Japan, one offered, as if that explained it, because it did. Well, she said, y'all want biscuits or not? Twice, contained twice in 1 minute. The biscuits arrived and I ate them as a member. I have since studied the grammar. Y'all Two or more souls bound. All y'all, an entire room, gathered into one word like rice into one bowl. There are scholars who say all y'all is excessive. Those scholars have never needed a word big enough for everyone they love. Y'all come back now, she said when we left. We. I am a we in Tennessee. A word does not ask permission to include you. It opens like a door, and you are already inside. I am practicing saying it. My accent makes it formal. You all, which my friends say defeats the purpose. The purpose survives. The purpose is everyone.
Isn't that great?
That is
It's
great.
wonderful. I loved it.
That is
Uh,
great.
so what can you pull from this example as far as either authorial voice or narrative voice?
He definitely has, for being a more formal person, he definitely has a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Um, and that comes through clearly, and it's lighthearted, um, sort of not really making fun of a Southerner and our y'all, but yet he understood it clearly.
Sure.
And so I think it's very cozy, is I think how I would
Oh,
describe this.
Mhm.
that's a great word. Yeah.
It's the shock of belonging to
Mm.
find that
Mm.
kind of welcome. I think it was a pleasant surprise for him.
In a place where he didn't know. Instant, instant acceptance for him, which is just really neat. I love the tone and the just the whole voice of the whole thing is very unique. And yeah, you get the sense, this really interesting sense about this character.
And he's pretty consistent. Like some of his posts go into to other things and aren't like this, but these that he writes like this are it keeps that authorial voice very strong, and this tone. So it's really just cool. And it says something. I mean, you kind of learn something from it, even though it's not at all didactic. I mean, it's not like that, but it's like, yeah, I love the line, I am a we in Tennessee.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Words
Because
A
have
little bit of
power, y'all.
right, a little exercising his poetic side,
yeah, just a little bit. Yeah,
just a
just a
little
little
bit.
bit. Yeah, I love it. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Oh my gosh, look at this. See how dense this is? So this
Mm.
this is an excerpt from The Sabbath by Abraham Joshua Heschel, and a book that I thought I was going to read, and I think I read the preface, and that's about as far as I got. So,
Chunky.
yeah. Norma, you want to read this one?
Sure. He who wants to enter the holiness of the day must first lay down the profanity of cluttering commerce, of being yoked to toil. He must go away from the screech of dissonant days, from the nervousness and fury of acquisitiveness and the betrayal in embezzling his own life. He must say farewell to manual work and learn to understand that the world has already been created and will survive without the help of man. 6 days a week, we wrestle with the world, wringing profit from the earth. On the Sabbath, we especially care for the seed of eternity planted in the soul. The world has our hands, that our soul belongs to someone else. 6 days a week, we seek to dominate the world. On the seventh day, we try to dominate the self.
Okay. So what is this test?
It's deep, y'all. Deep.
Scholarly,
Very, yes.
to me, it comes across, even though he doesn't reference works or anything like that, to me, it comes across a little more scholarly.
hmm Definitely.
Not a whole lot of emotion in it necessarily.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And he is a rabbi, and I think, known for
And a
his
little,
writings and all of that. So, yeah, and yet, I mean, i- these words, like they're put together in very interesting ways,
mhm, yeah.
but they're not like it's not like you have to read it with a dictionary either, but you do have to think about it. The betrayal and embezzling his own life. I mean, that
That was
phrase, every
good.
time I read it, just kind of, yeah, it just sticks out, like wow. So very thought-provoking, but dense. I mean, this was just one paragraph, just not much white space on the page.
Mm.
Okay, let's go on.
It was a hefty paragraph.
Yes, yes, it definitely was, and the book is kind of like that.
David in the comments says there's a semicolon.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a typo because I'm pretty sure it should be but our souls belong. The world has our hands, but our soul belongs to God. So that was my mistake, and I apologize.
That's okay.
Okay, surprise! I told you there were two voices. There are actually three. And what is that third voice? It is your characters. Let's go back to the caretaker's Christmas. Because that was written in first person, what are you getting? You're not getting necessarily my voice. You're getting
hmm
the caretaker's voice, right?
hmm
Now, the whole story is not written like that because it is not easy. Like that first part was easy, but it's not easy to maintain a voice like that over a long, well, not for me anyway, over a long, even a long short story or a short story. So it's interspersed with a third person POV from somebody else so that he just has, and I also think it might be exhausting to read. I'm not sure, but I don't know if someone would want to read a whole story written like that. I could be wrong. I don't know. But anyway, that was a strong voice for that character. I feel like I hope you all did too, that you could really tell something about this character. You don't even know his name, age, really anything, but that you know he is coming through as a character. So this is again James Scott Bell, character background, and he capitalized these words, not me. Character background and language filtered through the author's heart and rendered with craft on the page equals voice. So if you want a definition for voice, this puts it all together, okay? So the rendered with craft would be like, again, the tone that we talked about, that narrative voice. All right. So, how are you going to discover your character's voice? Because to me, this is like the most important part of all. That if you want to strengthen your voice, you need to know your character's voices. You can interview your character. I'm sure you've heard that advice before. Um, you can journal your character. I did this once with where treasure hides with my character Allison. I kind of knew what I wanted the book to be about because it's kind of a companion novel to When Memory Whispers, even though it turned out to be my debut novel, and was published a long time ago. But I just started journaling and I just started out, my name is Allison Schuyler, and then I just wrote. And just through writing those pages, I learned that her mother had died when she was young, that her father sent her to live with her grandfather, that their name used to be Van Schuyler, but when her father immigrated from Holland to America, that he got rid of the van. It even says he dumped it in the ocean. I just learned all these things about her that I hadn't even thought of, but I was just sitting on my porch, just writing, writing, writing. So that is a great way and just kind of get into a character's voice. Also, do you all remember Ben Cooper? Is that his last name? Yeah. The Living Legacy poem.
Yeah.
How much fun we had with that. That is a great way, again, to learn about a character.
I just want to give
So,
a quick recap on what the living
Lee, oh,
legacy is like.
yeah. Do you want to do that?
Well, I was just wondering, like, you did like, I am from,
Mm-hmm.
yep. Um, and then parts of your history. I am from trees and grass and ticks and swimming pools and doing
Mm-hmm.
things like that. just in case people weren't familiar with living legacy poems, or you can go back and watch the formal writer's chat with Ben, where we go through that.
You can. And then also it became quite the thing. So I think if you even just put like he called it Living Legacy. I don't think that's what it was originally called. But I think if you just put I am from poem in a search engine, you'll probably come up with even a template, which I've used in a workshop
Yeah.
before, which was really great.
Yep.
And so you can use that for your characters. So actually, I do have one more of my own excerpt. I kind of forgot that in my count earlier because I used this again for a short story for the beginning, and I was doing it. I started it just to do it as to get to know the character, but I liked it well enough. It became the first scene, and then it switches again to just like with the caretaker's Christmas. I just didn't feel like that whole story could be written like that. So it switches to a third person thing. And actually, he is in that third person part, he's talking to the caretaker from Caretaker's Christmas. So those stories kind of go together, which is also fun. But okay, let's read this one. Melissa, do you want to read this one?
Okay. Crossroad. I am from small town curiosity where farmers linger over topped off coffee in the granite grill while Vince holds his pancake turner like a scepter, where neighbors keep an eye out for neighbors, an ear out for gossip, and a helping hand open for wherever it is needed. Where I spent Friday nights kicking field goals for the high school football team, good enough to win a few games, not good enough for a college scholarship.
All right, so that's just the first paragraph, and I think it goes on like maybe three or four more just to kind of develop this character and introduce him. So again, you're seeing like I didn't know this about this guy. I didn't know he spent his nights kicking goals for the high school football team until I just started writing, and writing it like this, like he is doing this poem. So that's another really, really good way. Okay, I'm going to kind of hurry a little bit because I had things I want you guys to do, exercises. Okay, so these are uh, this is advice from Mr. Bell on creating a memorable character, some things that he suggests. One is to find a visual, like, cast your characters kind of thing. Either do it with AI or you can do it like find an image on the internet or a Hollywood star or whatever. Give your character five key emotions, both positive and negative. This one is really like, I knew this because I'd read this book before, The Power of Voice, but it was like I had just read it for the first time. I thought, yeah, I want to start doing that. I think that's a really great idea. Two, life-altering events in their past, and then give your character attitude. And then be sure the character establishes the emotional tone and sets the scene so that descriptions are revealed through the character's eyes. And he says this is especially important and perhaps easier when you're writing a first person POV. Okay. Especially you need to do it then. Everything needs to go through that character's eyes. So compare and contrast. Two authors, two descriptions of New York City. Here's the first one. Burn by James Patterson. And he is like the mega selling author of the whole world, right? There were sidewalk vendors and bustling clothing stores and lines of people in front of curbside food carts. There was also a lot of scaffolding and cranes from new construction and building renovations. I even saw a Times Square style double-decker bus go by filled with wide-eyed tourists. Okay, so how would you describe this voice, either from an authorial or a narrative lens?
I would say authorial. Um, he's the flow of it is there's like it's not staccato, but it's very lyrical almost, is I guess kind of how it sounds to me.
It's busy like the pace of a city.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. Yes, absolutely.
If you were an editor, what would be something you would immediately do with
Just to
this
add to the
paragraph?
voice and get rid of the passive phrasing.
Exactly. And yeah, James Patterson is one of the best-selling authors in the whole wide world. So there are people that enjoy this kind of very like, like I kind of think it is staccato, just or staccato, however you pronounce it, just, just da, 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 Um,
I mean, all of this is, I mean, the way it's written, it is all filtered from the character's perception. And a
that's
lot of
true.
the time, as an editor, you will say, don't filter, you just put it on the page. But sometimes an author wants their character to filter things because they're seeing it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really should be because even deep point of view, which is what most readers like nowadays, they want everything, to be seen through the point of view character, even if it's not first person. Okay, but I will tell you what, James Scott Bell, his comment under this paragraph is ugh. It kind of was, and it kind of was because of the there were and the there was,
Mhm.
and that it's
Yeah, it
just
could have just
so,
been sidewalk vendors and
yeah,
yeah, and bustling clothing stores lined the front of the curbs.
yeah. But again, he is a best-selling author. So
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's like, we get hung up on things sometimes, but he can
Mhm.
get away, but he can also just get away with stuff too that
Yeah.
maybe newbies can't. Okay, so then we'll go to the next one, The Killing Man by Mickey Spillane, who also, sold tons and tons of books. Brandy, it's your turn to read.
All righty. Some days hang over Manhattan like a huge pair of unseen pinchers, slowly squeezing the city until you can hardly breathe. A low growl of thunder echoed up the cavern of Fifth Avenue, and I looked up to where the sky started at the 71st floor of the Empire State Building. I could smell the rain. It was like the kind that hung above the orderly piles of concrete until it was soaked with dust and debris. And when it came down, it wasn't rain at all, but the sweat of the city.
Okay, which one gave you a better picture of New York?
This one by
This one.
far.
Yeah.
Mm.
You
A lot of
really felt like you were
sensory.
there.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of sensory details. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. From this character. So, but the thing of it is, James Patterson's readers, they want page turners. And I guess I mean, I think I've only read one of his book in my life. Short chapters. He does very short chapters, and it is just get to
Mhm.
the story and get it done. He's not interested in a huge pair of unseen pins or
Mhm.
the cavern
Yes.
of Fifth Avenue.
Yes. And I don't know if I mentioned, just for the listening, this was The Killing Man by Mickey Spillane.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All
and the
right.
pacing is definitely intentionally done differently for
Oh,
the
yeah.
purpose of the feeling that it's trying to get across. I mean, Patterson is kind of given that whole, the city doesn't rest. It's constantly going, and if you
It's
don't
true.
pay attention, it's going by you. So you
That's
get that
good. Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. And
Well,
you're just kind
the first one you just feel disconnected from the city, and this one you feel like you're in the city.
of,
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You guys are great. Okay, so how can you develop your authorial voice? Read a lot, write with joy. And sometimes I think like when it's my easiest writing comes when I'm really in the zone, as they say. And that's when you're leaning into your voice. You're leaning into your natural rhythms and all of that. And then do notice your recurring themes, whether it's dust motes or just sitting by the window whenever you eat. I mean, it can be something as simple as that. I mean, I do have like more depth to some of the themes that keep showing up in my books, but those are two just fun ones. And then if you're writing nonfiction, it's more important to be clear than to be clever. So communicate and then entertain. So make sure you nonfiction writers are being clear in your writing. All right, do we have time? Oh, yes. Not a lot of time, but a little bit of time. Okay. So I don't know how many people are here, but I'm going to give you about this is hard for the nonfiction people, but for the fiction people, first become a character, either from a current or potential work in progress. So this has to be your character, not when you're taking from someone else. Become a character, or if you don't have a potential one right now, just make one up. And then choose one of these exercises to either free write a first person journal entry, free write the opening of a living legacy poem, starting with I am, or take Mr. Bell's advice and do these three things, identify five emotions, write about two life-altering events, and if time allows, find or create a visual image for the character. And then if you're a nonfiction writer, first, I want you to write for about 5 minutes on can we do it less than that? I'm going to give you 3 minutes because I want there to be time for people to share their writings too. I'm
Or I
only going
can
to give
put
you
a timer up as well.
Okay, good. So let's give you, well, I was just getting mine out, but that'd be great, Brandy. Thank you. Um, 3 minutes to free write on a topic you care about. And then when that timer goes off, fiction authors ignore it. And nonfiction writers pay attention to it and then switch and rewrite your draft for a specific audience and with a specific tone. So that is changing your close. Okay. You're going to do your author voice and then you're going to change your close and write it a second time. And I think if we give people like maybe 3 minutes for the first part of the nonfiction and 5 minutes for the narrative voice part of the nonfiction, and that gives the fiction people 8 minutes altogether. And I know it's not much time, but that's what we're going to do. And then we'll have a little bit of time for either just discussion, or I would love to hear anything people came up with if they had some really like aha moments. That would be fun. Okay.
Okay, so I was looking for a way to set a time and then another time and I missed. What was the second time you wanted to write for?
Three
Five.
minutes and
Okay.
5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I'm ready. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You guys ready?
All right, here we go.
We want to pause the recording so we don't have 8 minutes of dead time.
I say we could probably leave it on because we have a timer on, and those of you that are watching, use this timer to make these switches. I have a second timer to go immediately after the first one. Time to switch.
Okay, so what I'm going to do really quickly is finish up just so because there's only like a couple more slides, just so I can stop sharing my screen and I have to try to share it again and we can listen to what you guys all came up with. So here's the takeaway. Okay, out of all of this, writers don't need to sound the same in every project to have an authentic voice. You saw four different excerpts from me, three short stories and a novel, and same person, but very, very different. Okay. Resources that I used, Voice, the Secret Power of Great Writing. It's not a very long book at all. It's great. The power of voice kind of comes from this book. So if you just want a quickie, you can go to the killzoneblog.com. There it is. If anyone wants to take a screenshot real quick, you can. Um, and if you want to contact me, okay. I'm going to stop sharing and see who wants to to share their character development or their nonfiction thing.
Yeah, I did nonfiction.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear
Oh,
it.
I didn't know you were going to ask me to do go first. I should have shut my app.
Okay,
No,
so
I can go.
yeah.
That's fine.
So well, I don't know how much time we have. I mean, I know we don't have much. Do you want to read it and then read both, or
My
just talk about the
beginning,
topic and read one? Yeah, just sort
my
of.
beginning is very, very short
Okay.
because I was setting up timers.
Okay.
And yeah, I can read it quickly. All right. First part was so many folks in churches come, do the stand up, sit down thing, reading responses, sing, and sleep during the sermons to sit and what? Fulfill what they think are God's requisites to enter heaven. And then I switched my tone. Dear folks in the rows lying in the sanctuary in front of the pulpit, do you not know the heart of the living God who created you longs for your heart in adoration in response to his offering of himself? Your songs, prayers, and empty readings bring him sadness, for your lips speak emptiness because your hearts are set on what you look forward to after your Sunday duty is fulfilled for the week. He longs for not just your outward expression of worship, he longs for your hearts, wishing they would be full of love for him just because he is the one who has arranged everything through the ages for you, because out of his own goodness he loves you, died for you. What other God in the world died for his worshipers? Do you not know his deep love for you? It is so.
Very, very good. Because you can really tell like that, yeah, this is where you're going with it. You have a point and an audience in mind. So good job. Good job. Who else is going to be brave and courageous? Okay, Norma.
No, I wasn't raising my
Oh,
hand.
I
I'm
thought you
going to
were.
say, if you want to share, come on screen and
Yeah,
come
do
on camera and share
please.
with us. And then I realized that
Okay.
I
Jocelyn
was
said that somebody can read hers, so I can read
Okay.
hers. She did fiction with a work in progress. She said she didn't get far. November 11th, 1918, Canadian General Headquarters. I was requested by General Tremblay to grab his briefcase from his tent and bring it to the British officers' headquarters, where he's meeting with the Canadian General Currie and with multiple British generals, including General Haig and Byng. It took some time for me to return with a briefcase and find the British officers' headquarters. I remember the room was tense. The men around stood around the table looking over maps. What do you mean, the lesson? Officer said. The officer said, the war will end in 2 days. I don't know what the comparison was from the beginning, but there you go.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't either, but it's is this supposed to be a nonfiction piece
I
too?
think this is fiction.
Okay, I'm
Fiction. Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay, but you did the nonfiction assignment, I think. So,
Oh, oh,
okay,
maybe.
but that's fine. That's
Sorry, I
fine.
didn't pre-read before I read.
No,
My
that's
apologies.
okay. That's okay.
But you wrote something, Jocelyn, so good job.
Yeah, it is. It's yeah, and I really
You could take
appreciate
the
it.
other
And I
component of
really,
the exercise afterwards and work on
yeah.
that.
But it's there's some good lines in here. I mean, when you're talking about no more of Dad's laughter, funny stories. I mean, anyone who's known grief is just going to,
Mm.
you know, hold that in their heart. So, and so I appreciate you writing this and thank you for sharing it. It's not easy to go through those things. Okay. Oh, I was reading Leslie's. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I was reading Leslie's.
Oh, okay.
Okay. When I got on, I got distracted. I'm sorry. And so when I was reading
It,
Leslie's, it's really,
Leslie
really
put
good. So
something in the
Leslie's
chat
is
too.
not fiction, yes. And then, okay, so now, um, okay, yeah, because I've looked at this before because I've seen some of Jocelyn's work. So this is, but yeah, again, I think you did that. You just shared your work and didn't do the character development. That's okay. That's okay. But I'd
So,
encourage
what would
you.
you recommend for doing
Well,
the character development in this particular piece of Jocelyn's?
yeah, I would go back and just um look at your main character because it's really not clear to me who that is right here. And then think about what we said about developing that character and then how you're going to present these scenes through his eyes. Even if it's not in first person, it's going to be in deep, probably be in deep third person, deep point of view. And that's what you want to do. Okay. All right. Anybody else? And Leslie, again, I'm sorry. Do you want to read Leslie's? Somebody want to read Leslie's for her so people know what I was talking about?
I can if you want me to.
Okay.
I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a city known for architectural design, industrial history, and the start of the Carnegie Library, which became the library system across the nation. Free books for all, and you must return them when finished reading. No wonder I am, excuse me, no wonder I am a hard worker, sometimes a workaholic, and an avid bookworm.
So then
The
she took
day,
that
and
and
now
came
she
up
rewrote
with,
it to
yeah.
this. The day my father died, everything seemed to change. Of course, the weather was weird. We had a snowy blizzard type day, and then it got sunny. Still cold, but definitely dark in my heart and mind. He was gone, not coming back. And I was only 15, almost an adult, shy 3 years. It changed the family. No more of dad's laughter or funny stories. It was like the hope left the family. 8 years later, we lost mom, and there was no going back. I've had to go on, but we have struggled to do so. But God is one of hope and new beginnings. Every morning, I look to Him for guidance and strength for the new day. The focus is no longer on loss, but the hope of heaven. Time shifts, and now there is a sense of urgency to share the gospel more to others and give His hope.
All right, that's a lovely piece. It truly is. I will say there is a disconnect though between your first part and your second part. So because you said I'm from Pittsburgh and the architecture in the Carnegie Library, I was expecting your second piece to be about that. So I mean it's fine, that this is what you did because this is, just us all among friends. But the idea of the exercise is to write about something that you're familiar with and then take that same information and put it into an essay or an article or just something, start out with it to a specific audience. So it's just a way to help you if you're wanting to write a story on grief, you could talk a little bit about it and then use that information to like your second part because you've had this personal experience. This could almost be the first part of your exercise and then take that and say, okay, who am I writing to and how can I use my experiences to write to a teenager who has lost their parent, you know, to do that. So that's sort of where we're going with that exercise. But thank you guys, because it takes so much courage to just share your writing with that. And y'all are good writers, and I always appreciate reading, you know, what you've written, and seeing you grow as writers is exciting, which has happened to you. So anybody else? Just one more real quick one. Lisa?
Yeah, I see
I'll
Lisa. Yeah.
I'll go. I'll brave it.
Okay.
I've never heard of a living legacy poem, and so I'm not quite sure if I wrote this right, but here
No, there's
goes.
no wrong way.
Okay, well, whatever it is. I am a crustacean in the depths of the ocean. My
Ooh.
parents care for me every day and have taken me to strange and yet beautiful places in the sea. I play with many of my friends, but I have a problem. I don't like my name. Would you like to know what my name is? Well, I guess I'll tell you. Humperstein Hubert Fish. And I'm not even a fish. Not technically. I'm a starfish. So, what am I going to do about my ridiculous name? I really don't like the sound of it. I even plug my ears. So, you see, I have a problem, and I wish it would go away.
That was fantastic.
Okay, I like that.
Did you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
do that right off, or is this a character that you have
I know.
put
It's a
off?
Patricia
work
says
in
this will make an
progress.
amazing
Yeah.
children's book. I know.
Uh,
Yeah,
It is
I
good, but
agree.
I'm sorry, how did you answer that question? Yes. Is
oh,
this a
yes,
character
it's
you'd
a work in
already
progress.
done?
I'm sorry.
Is this a character you already had in your head, or did you just sit down and start writing this just now?
I do have a character in mind and a work in progress. So
Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
thank you.
I love the
Yeah.
name, and that's why I thought, did she just come up with that name without in 8 minutes without giving it thought? That's great. That was wonderful. Well, that's a good one to end on. That was really fun. And
That was
yeah, the
good.
poem was it was great. You did a great job. So
Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. So
yeah,
good.
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. All right. That's it for me.
Melissa, what's up for next week?
Next week, we are setting everybody loose to take a vacation for the early celebration of the 250th Independence Day in our nation. So, yeah, we're going to take the time off. We will not be meeting that Tuesday for Writers Chat. We want you all to enjoy the time with family and friends, and just set off early to prepare for whatever you're going to do. And then we will come back the following Tuesday on July 7th with a return guest. Kathleen Sweeney is going to come back and talk to us about Book Brush and the latest updates there. You'll get to hear what they've got going, what are the tools and the services that they've got for authors, and how they might help you. So, yeah, it'll be fun.
Sounds good. Thank you, Johnnie, so much for joining us today. It has been fantastic to spend this time with you. And man, the hour's gone by super
Oh,
quick.
so fast. So
And
fast.
thank you all for being here in the audience, and those that are watching on the replay. Thank you. And be sure to hit the subscribe button, and be sure to join us, or head on over to Facebook and join the members page, Writers Chat member page. And hope you all have a very happy, safe, and blessed 4th of July. Anybody else have any last comments before we sign off?
Think so.
All right. Have a blessed 4th, y'all.
See you next time.